Spring's in the air, which means summer's going to be here before you know it. And I don't know about you, but it's time for me, right? Like it's time for me to really get my health back on track. And I love Noom's psychology based approach to weight loss and better eating habits. I think that this is just such a different and interesting approach to losing weight. And this app is just going to help you along the way. And you're at no point going to feel restricted, because that's the worst part about a weight loss plan, isn't it? There's a lot of science behind Noom. Check it out by going to noom.com/Fitish. That's NOOM.com/Fitish to sign up for your trial today. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fitish podcast.
Round 2 of rolling out of bed today.
My life partner is back. Oh, yeah. Well, obviously, I know. You got up and then you went back to bed. You're tired, boy.
It's been a long day.
Fran had a travel day from hell yesterday. I made it. There's something so challenging about the solo parenting, especially when you're spoiled and you're used to having someone else to parent with, and like not a moment of my partial single momming goes by when you're gone. And I know those of you that are single moms, you're like, you're so fucking stupid, Jenna. You know what I mean? Because you do it every day. But I just have so much respect, such a different level, really, for not only women that are stay-at-home moms, but women that, have no real support. Imagine being totally alone and no family around, not like a brief break from momming and parenting. And
not even a bra.
Not even a what?
A bra to give him support.
Oh, a bra. Yeah, no bra. I don't know where that. Oh gosh, this is gonna be an interesting show. Have you had any coffee yet?
I'm about to.
Yeah, we're on our first cups of coffee today. So this will be different. We're recording this quite early in the morning, so we'll see how this goes. It could be a shit show. But Francisco had a work trip, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself because the last one did not go well, your last overnight trip. And you've done it. I've traveled very rarely for work since I've had Remy. Once or twice I've had like a single night trip, and you've been great. And, and I'm lucky I have help. We have a not quite full-time help, but, we have.
Just pretty full-time when I was gone.
Well, technically, I think full-time would be like 8 to 5 every day. And she doesn't work on Mondays. She works till 3:00 most days. But yes, we had her stay later. Or I did, because I have to work. I've gotten to that point that I'm like, I have to work more hours, because I work from home, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But, if I like get to work some mornings at, well, not even 9, I don't know why it takes me hours to get out the door, but by the time I get there and meet with my team, and then all of a sudden it's like 2:00, I have to turn around and drive home. And I just don't get enough work done. So I said I need a few days a week until like that 5 p.m.
And then I think we all fall into this temptation that even though we have help and we have the chance to stay in the office, when you hear that someone is taking Remy to some nice patio, it's like, oh, fuck, work.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, but I've gotten some feedback about last week's show, kind of my revelation on stop trying to achieve balance, just like be in the moment, whatever that moment is, whatever you're doing, be in the moment. And that's what it's a work in progress. Of course, some days are better than others, but yeah, I talked to my mom yesterday on the phone about it because I had a really productive day at work. I actually, a couple days this week, had really productive work days, which I don't feel like I have as often, and then I go, well, yeah, back in the day, I was up at 4 a.m. on the radio, could at least get some emails done. Then I'm leaving, and I'm single, right? I wasn't even in a relationship. I would go home before I had a Fitish office, but I would work until like 11 p.m. or something, or 10 p.m. or whatever, right? But like, that's just not the case anymore. So I have to be really productive in those moments. But it's hard because it's like I love working from home. I love that I can work from home. But then I'm in here. We have this glass door in the office. So the little beast comes up to the door and he's like, I want to see mama, and then I like go 20 minutes and hang out with him. So anyway, it was nice, but I did it, Fran. I made it. I survived successfully. And I really worked on that sleep training.
I literally plugged the Bluetooth speakers of my hotel room to my ringer because I didn't want to sleep through you calling me at 3 a.m. in the morning saying, ah!
She's sleeping. Yeah, well, that was just a one-time thing, and I was just really overwhelmed, and I didn't have anxiety this time. What else I did, a couple of tips that really helped me. I don't know if y'all go through this. It's clear we have a lot of newish parents that listen to the show as well, but there's just this anxiety that I never used to have, and that's really hard for me to deal with because I've always been a pretty chill person, and so to have like newfounded anxiety and not, then also like I can't just sit there and take a Xanax, right? I can't just drug myself now when I'm the only parent home because then I'm just gonna like that would knock me out for the whole
What
night.
causes you the most anxiety?
Um, him being okay, being like I'm the only person here, just being worried about him. Is he gonna sleep? And then also like the questions: is he gonna sleep through the night? So it's like different levels of anxiety. It's like he's gonna stop breathing, or well, it's that weird cycle, right? Like you wake up one morning at 5:30 and you haven't heard your child all night when they have a tendency to cry in the middle of the night, and you're like, is he okay? Instead of like, oh, amazing, I slept until 5:30. It's like, is he okay? Is he alive? Then you get on the monitor and then you kind of wake yourself up and you're scared. But yeah, I think it's just this generalized anxiety about like taking care of something that I love so much and I'm so scared. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried about being alone in the house anymore. I've gotten settled in here. I watched a horror movie, which I always tell myself I shouldn't do. Why do I do that? It was fine though. It wasn't too scary. It was more
So the thing is
psychological.
that it's funny because you always say you wouldn't do, then you watch it and you always say, "Whoa, did I do that?"
Yeah.
Like a funny cycle.
Yeah. That's what I was just saying. Yeah. No, it was called Infinity Pool. We can talk about that later. It wasn't like super scary horror. It was like
Very
ma-
architectural.
yeah, like macabre and psychological and weird, not like jump scares. Anyway, okay. Don't get me distracted. I have a tendency to get distracted when I'm talking anyway and talk even more than I already talk. But yeah, I did it. So what, this was a few nights, a few mornings without you. But I
You
did
did
it. You
amazing.
know
I'm
what
very
else I
proud
did?
of
I went
you.
to bed early. I saw a TikTok the other day that a dad was like, it's the constant battle when you go to bed at night of like wanting to go to sleep when the baby sleeps right away because you're so tired, but also being like, I'm gonna stay. I gotta stay up
Regain your
late.
freedom.
Yeah. So it's like you want to be on your phone, you want to do stuff, but I just gave into it. I didn't turn on the TV except for one night I watched a movie early, but like I put the phone down around 9. When I started getting sleepy, I just went with it. And I was like, that way if he wakes up in the middle of the night, because that's part of the anxiety too, when you're sleep deprived and then you can't sleep and you're stressed about sleeping, it's midnight and you're like, he's gonna wake up. And anyway, I did good. He did wake up, but I sleep trained. He cried for a few minutes here and there, and I just let him cry. And yeah, I managed to get him to sleep till like 6
I am
a.m.
so proud of you, baby. Like I am so happy that you had a good experience. Of course, that's always something that every time I travel, it's in the back of my head. Like I don't think I feel anxiety, but I worry that like that you're going to get overwhelmed or that I'm not going to be there to help you in any way, shape, or form. And I'm so happy for you. I was very proud.
I think it does make you appreciate having a partner around, just especially like bedtime routine and getting in that big bathtub with him, getting out with him. Like I'm naked, he's
That's
pinching my nipple, like giving me some sort of titty twister because now he's like rediscovered them and he's like, oh, what are those? But like I'm just trying to bathe and like with him or bathe him and play. But so it's a challenge. Bedtime routine's a challenge, but I've just started kind of trying different things and I've actually put him to bed an hour later. I think I told you that. I'm not sure if I
yeah.
told you that. Every night you were gone an hour later. I don't know how that's gonna fare for us. Now that the time's changed, we'll see how
Well,
it
I think
goes.
as long as I think the one advice that resonates with everybody's schedule,
Yeah.
have a schedule. Like if you have a kid with a schedule, you're gonna have a good, healthy environment. But as everything in life, it's easier said than done.
I will
So
say that about the sleep training too. Like for those of you that reach out to me asking about it or still think it's great if you're like able to just co-sleep. It's no issue with that. This was more just about trying to get him with better sleep habits for us because he wants to hit me in the middle of the night all the time and I can't sleep. But um, I just like to say that because sometimes I feel like when you're like, it's like the whole.
And he was hitting you yesterday?
What do you mean?
Or he was hitting you the day before yesterday?
Pick a time. He beats the shit out of me. Why?
I told him.
What?
Not on Women's Day.
No.
Not on Women's Day.
Every other day is fine.
If he hits you, he doesn't love you. Like that's something I tell him.
I don't know. I was reading about it. It's weird because it's not that he's throwing a temper tantrum. He's doing it to be funny, but I sing the Miss Rachel. I'm like, we're gentle with our friends, or I'll be like, we're gentle with our mamas. And he's like, and he just starts whacking me.
I think that's a mistake we're making.
Singing?
No. We need to grab a dictionary and say gentle. What the meaning of gentle? Maybe he doesn't know what gentle means.
He thinks gentle means beat the shit out of mom.
He just don't know. Like he heard gentle,
I think it's just reaction, and that's what's so hard. But look, I'll say this. It so much totally makes sense to me. I think, before you have kids, you're like, wow, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, people that shake their kids, like people that, do things like that. I know this sounds dark, but like, it does make sense to me because sometimes they can make you so mad when they're like hitting you. And I have a feeling that's only going to get worse, with toddler tantrums and stuff. He had some tantrums yesterday. It was interesting. I just kind of would like sit him on the floor and, it must be hard for him to not communicate. And, me being almost 40 years old and like reading a lot about it, it's like, I understand it's all about you kind of keeping yourself calm. And that's easier said than done because sometimes they like really hit you hard, or he'll headbutt when he's mad and throwing a fit, and I pick him up and he'll like headbutt me in my chest bone and it hurts so bad. Usually I just kind of will sit him down, and I'm trying not to just like be like plop him down and be like no, but I do understand why people imagine being 19 years old with a baby. Like, you have no emotional maturity, you're fighting with your partner, your baby's losing their mind. Like, I get it. Like, I understand why. Like, that's so challenging, Like, I'm not saying it's okay.
No,
Understanding, having empathy doesn't mean that it's okay.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. And that's something I tell everybody that I ask, which I promote this conversation a lot when it comes about talking about my kid. We're in a certain age. Like, I'm almost 40. Our lifespan is not the one that we had when we were 19. And it's just about embracing every moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's just about understanding that everything is temporary. And even when he's upset, the mere fact that he's upset and you can grab him in your arms and just be present with him is a gift that life is going to take away sooner than later.
Fran has great perspective, and Vanessa wrote us an email and said, I like this. I like when things resonate with y'all, or that sometimes it's like a friend and I just airing our arguments or our parenting life. But Vanessa wrote us a really long email and said that last week's show had her crying. I'm not going to read everything, Vanessa, but she just said that she has a 23-month-old and a 4-month-old. Have been on the struggle bus for the past few months trying to find my balance and get everything, quote, done. I have 4 fucking dogs, 2 babies, and a husband. And my entire existence is work, home, clean, but not really. Feed babies, bathe babies, try to clean and sleep. See, this is really nice because I think it's like, it's nice to hear you say this because I had no idea that's what life was about to become. Like, I knew, oh, your life will never be the same. It's so amazing. My mom's like, you're never gonna, you've never felt love like you're gonna feel. Okay, true. I feel the love. But there's also a whole lot of other day-to-day stuff that's really overwhelming. Anyway, Vanessa's just said she appreciates the transparency and really needed to hear, just learn to accept it. But look, that's me preaching. Like, again, I'm kind of, I've really you see things on TikTok, you see things on the internet, and every now and then something kind of sticks with you because you're like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm not gonna take an ice bath every day. I wanna like maybe try it and think about it, but like I'm not gonna do that every day. But I like things that are more tangible. You all know that about me. I like things that you can just kind of like do in that moment, little tips. And I just really liked that idea of like just be present, be 100% into whatever you're doing. And when you can, especially, with him. And that's the thing is I've gotten even better. Still feel like I could be better. I'll catch myself looking at my phone in the morning when I'm playing with him, and I'll see him looking at me because he wants to like play music class. So then I just like go sit the phone down, because I'm like, just be in it. And you feel better about your parenting when you're like in the moment at the time.
100%.
And same with when I'm at work. Like, I love that she sends me pictures, but sometimes it makes me stop for a second and be like, oh, when I'm in the middle of doing work. And so, I'm like, oh, I just need to stay like laser focused when I'm at
And
work.
I think I feel exactly the same way like you do. And that's why, even though it takes a lot of self restraint, I don't open them.
Well, anyway, tell us a little bit about your trip.
Well, it was a really successful trip. It felt really short. I could have literally stayed there for another 3 days. There
Well,
was
just
so
where'd you
much.
go?
So I went to Cancun. I landed in Cancun. I had a couple of meetings. I have a huge listing in Mayacoba, which is our flagship listing over there. I met new developers that are very interested to be represented by us, and went to Tulum, went to Playa del Carmen. But what I saw in Tulum was amazing. Like, we have some product coming up in Tulum that is just beyond beautiful. It's like in a little oasis. Like, that Tulum is always busy. It's
Mhm.
always hopping. This is a little oasis, and it's just beautiful. Um, I met with new developers. Well, they're not new developers. They've been developing for the past 30 years, but new to me. And we're gonna start working all over the country. In Mexico country, we're gonna start solving issues that Americans have had and have stopped them from buying property in Mexico, buying a second home in Mexico. So it was a really, really interesting trip that we had. Um,
You had a bit of a hiccup on the way home, though. Tell us.
like my yesterday was a hiccup is an understatement.
So, Francisco, I'll help you tell the story along the way because I'm at my office. And your original plan was you had like a 5 p.m. flight out of Cancun. The weather was actually, this was a day that the weather was supposed to be pretty inclement and storms again. And so, Francisco, I guess I didn't know, but we don't talk tons when you're traveling. Like, you're busy and we check in, but our conversations tend to be like, hey, how are you? Okay, bye. You were like, in the middle of a meeting, and I was like, it was an hour ahead there. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be at the airport? You're like, no, I changed it to the 7 p.m. flight. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me know when you get to the airport. And then I get a text from Fran 2 hours later that's like, I got hit. He's in Mexico. I don't fucking know what that means. You got hit, a cartel hit? You got someone hit you?
No, so I was jumping from a meeting to another meeting, and it was literally, my time had to be clockwork. Leaving the meeting,
Which is great for someone like you because you're just like very on top of your time management.
I'm working on it, and it worked. So I was running out of Playa del Carmen, going to Mayacoba, which is between Playa del Carmen and Cancun, and I was jumping into the highway, which is like a second, like a second floor. How do you call it? Like, it's elevated highway, and I was going into the ramp. Of course, I was going fast because I needed to get there in time, and I was about to meet the
Just
president.
so y'all know, if Fran says he's going fast, his regular speed is like so fast, you're like, I'm gonna die. So like him saying he's going fast, I can't even fathom.
And I rented the most amazing little car because I've been actually flirting with buying one. But long story. So I was going into the ramp, and I see this car in front of me. Like, I saw him going up, and then he started backing up because he saw there was a lot of traffic coming in, so he was about to get hit. And he was starting reversing. I couldn't stop. I just we just collided.
Where was he backing up to? Down the ramp?
He was just backing up so he doesn't he was already encroaching into the first lane of the highway.
Yeah.
So he was just trying to free that up so he can have enough space to, whenever he find a good space, jump into the highway. But in that moment, I was already coming in. So we collided hard.
So now that you're telling it this way, he was backing up, but is it your fault because he was technically in front of you?
Well, so he was backing up, and if you're reversing, it's always your fault.
Really?
If you are in reverse, it is always your fault.
Got it.
So I tried to brake. We didn't have enough space. So his car it looked like an accordion.
Wonderful.
My car had no damage. Like no damage whatsoever. And the great thing,
well, you got to think, I mean, also, Fran, speed has a lot to do with that. That's just physics. Like you had the momentum. It's usually the people that are wild and out that like don't have the damage and don't die in the accident. And it's like the little person sitting there in their car not moving that takes the brunt of it's physics. So it's like that's why his car, you keep talking it up like it was your rental car is like a champion. And I was like, no, it's because you were flying and he was like not going very fast.
Okay, Hopkins. But
okay, what?
Hopkins. Stephen Hopkins.
Well, that'd be nice if you said Stephen Hawking.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyhow, fortunately, we were all really cool with that. Like I texted, I was meeting one of the higher up at the company, and he has the busiest schedule. So he was able to. We had a meeting in the morning. He wasn't able to be there. He's like, just come here at certain time. Text him. Is like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I just got into an accident. And are you okay? Do you need any?
It's always when you have something to do too.
Of course.
You never. It's never when you're just like. I mean, I guess you're always. Yeah.
So, long story short, in Mexico is long story less long. In Mexico,
we just got to start saying long story long.
In Mexico, it's a shit show because it's not like here that you exchange insurance and everybody goes their way. They have to send the adjuster to hear the story, to see the story, and to make sure who was at fault is responsible. If you cannot arrange that, then they send a professional adjuster that will look at the tracks. Anyhow, this was a very easy thing. We all knew what happened. The great thing about a rental car, and this is an advice, do not rent a car without full insurance because that gives you the biggest peace of mind. I didn't care if the car jump on fire.
Friend, because a lot of people think that the insurance is a scam, but that's a more domestic issue, right?
Well, I'm gonna go through that in my Instagram next time and my TikTok because there's a lot of tips I want to give you about insurance and renting a car in Mexico.
Right, because that's usually what people.
First of all, if you're going to go to Mexico and you have to rent a car, do not reserve the car on any of the website, Kayak, whatever. Call the office in the place that you're going to go. If you're going to go to Cancun, call the office in the airport in Cancun and ask them for the rates because otherwise you're going to get duped big time. So once you get there, ask for full coverage.
Okay, so now you're doing car rental tips?
Well, you directed me that way, but I'm going to stop there. I'm going to give that advice because it's very important. So anyhow, we went there, spent an hour with the adjuster. That's always the Mexico pain of having an accident. And always good. We made really good friends with the people we crashed with. And the guy from my client is like, hey, how are you doing? Where are you going? Like, I can meet you right now and I can move my flight till tomorrow because this is really important to me. Or or what do you suggest? Is like, which terminal are you like leaving from? Like, I'm leaving terminal 3, but I literally like I have 3 minutes to check in and jump in my flight. Like, I'll see you in terminal 3. So I went there. He met me there. My phone, of course, this is not going to come to shock to anybody. It died. So
I would just like to interject here and say, because you're just like going on your story, but there are little steps here along the way that, Fran's letting me know at 5:30 p.m. his time, his flight leaves at 7, that he is not only 45 minutes from the airport, he's still sitting there with the insurance adjuster. And I'm like, well, that's fucking great. Like, he's obviously not going to make it home. And so, he's like, I'm going to drive really fast. So then I'm all anxious. And so this is kind of the dynamic of the relationship when Fran asked me why I have anxiety. So then over an hour and a half goes by, and he's like, it's probably almost maybe an hour. I text him, nothing's going through, calling, it's dead. I'm like, okay, his phone's dead. He's zooming to the airport. He's 100% not going to make his flight that leaves at 7, Apparently, at some point in this juncture, he had a meeting with a man. I don't even know how all this happened, but yeah. And then I finally hear from him, and he's like on an airplane about to make it home.
The best meeting I've ever had. Cliff notes. It's like, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this. We got it done.
And then, well, that's great. I'm glad you had a successful meeting. You want to tell everyone about the meeting?
Yes.
Well, hold that thought and let me get to the sponsors of this week's Fitish podcast, because with you being gone and me still trying to get Remy, he's been eating a lot more solid food now. But of course, it's really important to me it's like I want to feed him good meals, but then again, when you work all day, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go to the store. What's for dinner? I don't want to go get fast food. I don't want to do any of that. I still want to have something nutritious. We've really been enjoying our Green Chef subscription. Remy loves fish like way more than me, and it's just so nice because we're getting so much great food from Green Chef. More recently, almond crusted barramundi. How yummy is that? And of course, we got the Mexican flair over here. Enchilada spice turkey bowls is something else that we've made. So tons of protein packed. They can kind of, accommodate any sort of dietary preference that you want when you're selecting out your meals, right? So whether it's keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, and just so you know, like Remy eats whatever we eat now for the most part. So, that makes life a lot easier actually.
So much.
Or sometimes he actually, I think, he likes more things than I do. I'm pickier than Remy, but anyway.
Yeah, he likes tongue.
Everything. Yeah, Green Chef I don't think offers tongue. I haven't seen that on the selection yet, but that's a delicacy you can take him when he goes to your homeland. But Green Chef is actually the #1 meal kit for eating well with dinners that work for you, not the other way around. You just have to remember to, thaw your meat earlier in the day. But the recipes have, premium protein, seasonal organic produce, and sustainably sourced seafood. This is also the only meal kit that is both carbon and plastic offset. So they offset 100% of their carbon footprint, as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. I've really been enjoying it, though. It's like I can still make a home cooked meal, but without having to look up the recipe and go to the store. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Go to greenchef.com/Fitish60 and use that code Fitish60. That's FITISH60 to get 60% off plus free shipping. Again, that's greenchef.com/Fitish60. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Ritual has been a sponsor of the Fitish podcast for a very long time, but not as long as I have been a Ritual subscriber. A lot of these, this in particular, I had found from a social media ad many years ago when they came out and they were offering just like the women's daily multivitamin. And I thought, well, this looks really transparent. Literally, you can see through the vitamins. And I really liked that. And then, of course, the taste. Like, I know taste is just such a small thing to some people because they care about the, everything that's in it. They don't care if it tastes bad. But not only is Ritual transparently really good for you, I really like the taste. And if you're taking something and swallowing something every day, I mean, that's a big thing for me. Like, that was always
the aftertaste. When you start burping and it smells like salmon.
Right. And I hate that about supplements that I've tried throughout the course of my life. And it's probably why I never stuck with them. But Ritual, everything that they offer, it's coated. It tastes nice. So, whether it's the prenatal, I loved. I took that prenatal. They have a postnatal as well. The prenatal was lemon. And I love that lemon. The lemon. And now they have a symbiotic plus. And you're like, what is that? It sounds like a prebiotic. It is, but apparently they have combined a prebiotic, a probiotic, and a postbiotic designed to help support a balanced gut microbiome. And so this is a 3-in-1 clinically studied combination of all of these. And of course, this is very easy to add. I mean, I highly recommend, getting a multivitamin from Ritual. And then if you already are a subscriber like I am, this is a really easy add-on to your monthly subscription. Francisco and I, we both get we're both on the daily multivitamin. You get the men's, I get the women's. I'm no longer doing the postnatal. I'm far enough past that. I think, even though part of me is like, could I still take the prenatal? I'm going to ask Ritual if I can do that. And then we get the Symbiotic Plus as well. This one has a minty coating. Symbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. It's time to listen to your gut. Ritual is offering our Fitish listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Just go to ritual.com/Fitish to start Ritual or add Symbiotic Plus to your subscription today. Again, that's ritual.com/Fitish to start Ritual or add Symbiotic Plus to your subscription today. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Losing weight is so much more about what you put into your body than it is about the exercise and what you put out, unfortunately, because I've been back exercising a little bit. But at the end of the day, I know that you're never going to be able to outtrain a bad diet. And if you've been struggling with that, or if you're like me and you had a baby recently, it's a game changer for your body and the foods you crave and why you eat when you eat. And if you're wondering, well, why am I hungrier at certain times? And I'm eating all of Remy's food. Well, Noom is such a great approach to weight loss. It's going to give you such a different perspective of, why you eat what you eat, why you have these certain cravings. It's a psychology-based approach. This is all rooted in psychology. And I've always been a big believer that a lot of weight issues and kind of diet issues have to do with what's going on in your head. Like Fran, for instance, you have such a tendency to eat like nothing all day. And then you get busy and you're stressed and you're distracted and you're not prepped for eating. And then you just like eat a ton at night. You're really tired. You get really hungry. Right. And so with Noom, they kind of walk you through, these questions of, okay, so when are you eating most of your calories? Why are you eating this way? Do you tend to eat when you're stressed? Are you sad? What's going on? Because they know that a lot of these unhealthier habits most of us tend to have are purely associated with kind of the psychology of what's going on in our lives. And so the app is amazing. Let's talk about restrictions. That's usually an issue, at least for me. If I try to deprive myself of something, I end up wanting it or wanting more of it. But this is a flexible program. It's going to focus on progress, not perfection. You can choose a level of support within the app. If you're like, no, I got this. I just want some tips. I want to read. I want to log. Fine. But if you want to have a 5-minute daily check-in, that's great. If you want to have a full-on personal coach to guide you along the way, they offer that as well. And these lessons are going to be personalized to you and your goals. Okay, let's talk about the science and the stats behind this. Noomers lose an average of 15 pounds when they've been in the program for 16 weeks. I mean, that's an average of like a pound a week. That's amazing. And 95% of customers say Noom is a good long-term solution. And again, this is all grounded in science. You can read so much more about it, scientific articles describing their approach. And stop chasing health trends and build sustainable, healthy habits with Noom's psychology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com/Fitish. That's NOOM.com/Fitish to sign up for your trial today. And check out Noom's first ever book, The Noom Mindset, a deep dive into the psychology of behavior change, available to buy now wherever books are sold. Okay, we've been hanging by a thread. Did Fran make it home? Okay, you made it home because your flight was delayed.
No, actually, it wasn't delayed. Like, I thought it was about to be delayed because they said delayed, but at the end of the day, the flight left at
I was tracking
7:30.
I thought it was a 7:00 flight.
No, it was 7:25. It left at 7:30.
Oh, wow.
So
This is how mine and Fran's communication is. Oh, no, I booked it on the 7. I get home at 9:30. And then it was like, but it's 7:30. You just kind of like throw numbers out, and then your phone's dead for a while, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden I'm falling asleep, and I just get a message that was like, it's so bumpy, it feels like we're gonna crash, and I'm like,
I
and then
never said it's so bumpy, it feels it's gonna crash. Never.
you just kept telling me how bumpy it was,
It
and
was
then your phone would die, and then I got a message before that was like, I'm having major back pains, and I'm like, from what? The flight? What? And you're like, no, from the accident. And I'm like, I talked to you on the phone after the accident. You didn't even tell me you had back pain. So you're just giving me these tidbits, and then your phone's dying. I mean, I'd like to say I'm going to send you with like backup chargers, but we all know how great those work. The one time that you buy it at the airport, like that's such a good shtick. Like you buy those pods in the airport and they like work, and then you have to charge them. And so then you like have them in your bag and they're always dead.
Well, the great advantage about having to stop for an hour to wait for an insurance adjuster is because I left the hotel room in such a rush that I left my computer charger in the hotel room. And I was like, there's like, let me call the hotel. I called the hotel, like, hey, I left my computer charger. Like, yes, we found it. She's like, are you still in Playa del Carmen? Yeah. Do you want to come pick it up? He's like, no, can you put it in a taxi? He's like, well, let me see. So they just put in a taxi, and the taxi met me like in the middle of the road where we had the accident, and gave me my charger. So
I would love the story of all the items you've left different places, and like where are they now?
All chargers.
The iPad in the taxi on the way to the wedding,
Oh,
because you were
yeah.
taking your iPad to a wedding.
Like, babe, money doesn't stop, doesn't sleep, doesn't party. So sometimes you have to work, have to send a contract, review
I'm
a
not
contract.
arguing that. I'm just saying like you need a better solution to keep track of all your goods. And I got you our air tags, and I feel like the air tags are just chilling in the house.
No, everything has an air tag.
Really?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
but I don't have an air tag on a charger.
Oh, no, everything you own needs an air tag. Your penis needs an air tag. Everything.
That's one thing I don't lose.
Well, I'm glad you had a great time.
I know all the ins and outs of my penis.
Did your feet touch the sand?
No, like this time I didn't even need to look at a pool. Like it was so.
Really? Did you get content like I told you to?
I got as much content as I could. Like I had videos of most of our projects. The things that there's so much, but
this is a conversation, Fran, and I am. Those people that are really close to me know like I'm a real cheerleader when it comes to like taking content, especially if I think it could benefit. I mean, not just everyone, right? Like if you do accounting, I'm not going to be like, you need content. But for Fran, it's just my opinion, but I feel that, he gets very excited when he does some of these work trips, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for him with his kind of bilingual abilities and the back and forth. I mean, he travels to Mexico so much, and there's a lot of opportunity for him with real estate in Mexico. And I've told him that I really think he could be so great on TikTok if he was focused on like a niche of maybe it's like travel tips to Mexico. I mean, no one knows stuff better than you. I mean, there's other people that go back and forth a lot. I'm sure there's other people out there, but I'm just saying you are so great with from kind of the hotels to the law to, there's just, you've done so much business there that you have such an astounding amount of knowledge. Especially after now, I mean, you're a citizen here, so you have such a good understanding of the back and forth. And I think it would do like really well on a platform like TikTok or YouTube, where you're like constantly giving people bits of information about traveling and these travel tips and where to go and where's safe and why, and tell people about it, because so many people are concerned about traveling there. They want to go to Mexico City, or they want to get an Airbnb property or do something, right? And so I keep telling Fran the one thing he has to do, and I know it's easier said than done, I'm like, please take videos for me, like not videos to send me like when you're there, but like take videos for me, and then I can edit you some videos together that then you can voice over. So encourage him.
This is actually a really good opportunity to mention one thing. People are so freaked out of what happened in Matamoros.
Yeah.
Like, and I cannot address that enough. So
let's talk about what happened. So 4 people came over the border. Obviously, that's a border town. But it is crazy because even who I follow here, someone where I get my news from, well, granted, she's reposting the NBC headline, but it's like 4 American tourists kidnapped in Mexico. And so of course you read that and you're like, that is such an unfair fucking headline, right? Because like stuff like this does happen like frequently in all areas
But
of
it's so dramatic. Like the things that, of course, like if you, there's times that I have heard like someone got shot outside Highland Park. So it's just like you can twist
yeah.
a news just like that. And I'm not saying that going to Matamoros in a car is the safest thing. Don't do it. Like if you know exactly what you're doing, you've done it, you have family there, you know your way around, you know your street smarts,
Because
do it.
explain why this is a town that's a border town that's pretty run
It is
by
pretty
cartel.
run by the cartel. And it's like border towns are where they transact, where they send their product, get their money. So
yeah,
it's
and people
heavy.
are trying to get over and
So like I have
these people were obviously looking for trouble too. When you read more about it, she wasn't just there for a BBL. Like they were obviously probably trying to buy drugs or something too.
well, I cannot say that or not. I'm just saying.
No, one of her friends said that.
Well, I didn't hear that. However, where I'm trying to go here is not address enough a lot about that situation. Is that that's not Mexico. Like being shot in Deep Ellum is not Dallas. And you can still have an amazing experience. Like I have had many friends, hey, can you help me get a bulletproof car because I'm going to go with my family in spring breakers? Absolutely. Like right now, every security business is booming because of that. So they might say thank you, but I think this is just very important to know that it's not what's happening all around Mexico. Going to Playa del Carmen, if you like, as long as you keep your like you're not flashy, you go to your resort.
Let's talk about Playa a little bit because I have heard that Playa's gotten more dangerous than it used to be because I used to go there, right? And now it doesn't seem to be the place that as many people go like on vacation, but they go to these other surrounding
Yeah.
areas which are like 5 and 10 minutes away, right? I mean, is that the case or you think it's just
So what I will always say is like go to a place, go to a resort, go to places where it's where the tourists go. Like if you try to go somewhere new and exciting, do your research. Of course, there's bad people everywhere, but do your research. We've like you don't hear a lot about tourists getting mugged any like as often as you used to. As long as you're smart, like Mayakoba, it's a complete different story. Like that's a city within itself, and it has top-notch security, top-notch like everything. But what I wanted to go, what I wanted to say is, it's not all Mexico. What happened in Matamoros? Don't get scared. Go enjoy your spring break. Don't change plans. Like if you're planning to go to Cancun for go to your resort and stay in your resort. And if you're gonna go to a restaurant, take a car, go to the restaurant, enjoy. Don't live with the fear.
okay, so send Fran questions that you might have about traveling to Mexico, and then that gives him content ideas, and I will help him make videos on it because I still believe that you could be this like TikTok star selling Mexico.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the fact that we're starting
Selling Mexican sunset.
we're doing selling Fitish. We've started filming a reality show of our days at the office, and I think the episode's going to premiere like tomorrow or the next day. I mean, this is very low budget filming our office drama with like the girls that work for me, but we thought it'd be like fun content to do, so we're calling it selling Fitish, but we're making it a mock like it's a little reality show. But anyway, let's get to, before we wrap up today, we've gotten some really great emails, so I thought we could at least touch base on a couple of these. But Thea, I hope I said that right. Hey, Jenna and Fran, let me begin by telling you how much I love the show. I love your banter and how, even if you don't realize it, you balance each other so beautifully. I wanted to see if you'd be willing to devote a whole podcast to entrepreneurial endeavors and how to get started. Jenna, I've watched your TikToks on how you started Fitish, not to mention I followed you for a while. I know how hard you've worked. I'm a teacher, but want to get my own business started and need some guidance. We recently moved to Michigan from Texas, and The idea I have is an untapped market where we live, and I just need some help on the beginning stages. I think other listeners who are considering the same path would love a full podcast on the topic if you're willing to do it. Yeah, I will. I think that's you're not the first person to ask that, and if you think that it would be interesting, I think Fran and I, it would take a little more planning. Like I'd want to sit down and segment it out and give some tips because it's hard, right? Like with what I do and the business that I know, it doesn't always translate because I don't know what her business is, right? But we could at least give some tips on, you know, starting off, right? Building a business. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's hard sometimes
Yes.
to think without knowing the details because like her line of work may be totally
I
different than
think the foundation of a business applies to 95% of every business. Like the foundation
there's
of
a lot that
how to
does.
set up a business, getting a business plan, knowing
Mhm.
your what you're going against, your competition, all what's knowing your market and put your goals in paper.
Well, we'll work on a podcast for that we record
Yeah,
that we
I
can
would
put
love
out for
that.
everyone. I think that would be great. Serena wrote and said, "Hi Jenna and Fran. First off, hearing your story in the beginning stages after y'all had Remy was definitely hitting home. I have a baby boy who's going to be a year old this month. The beginning stages after having my son and finding a new normal were rough, but hearing y'all's struggles on the podcast that you've gone through and how you still don't feel normal sometimes makes me so glad I'm not the only one. I struggled with postpartum depression, even though I know you didn't have that. I appreciate your transparency. So it feels like I'm not alone. I'll say this. I said this earlier in the show. I feel that postpartum depression is just like, it almost feels like I could like reach out and touch it. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like I totally understand it. I even now I do understand that postpartum psychosis. I mean, that one's a little harder because I'd never felt that, but understanding these glimpses of how claustrophobic and just suffocating, some of those hormones and emotions can feel, understanding that the brain works that way and how awful like these stories we hear about women. It's been actually really interesting to read a lot of these comments from other women, not at all being like that woman's terrible, lock her up forever, but being like there is not enough support for her, and like she was failed obviously by doctors and family and people like that, because like I think if I was going batshit crazy, you would like never leave me alone, or you know what I mean. But then again, you say that and you think people are getting better, and it's just really hard to navigate. It's just hard. No one, I mean, gosh, I just don't know how it's the year that it is. And like, I've been to my gynecologist just one time since having a baby, and they just like pressed around a little bit. Like, you're good to have sex. And I'm like, okay, so when am I due back? She's like, oh, like whenever your next pap is. Like, no, they should be having you in there every week. Like, how are you
100%.
feeling?
But
Like,
not only like your gyno, having like someone that is like a psychologist,
yeah, like a postpartum care for a year
yeah,
that you go to once a
or a
week.
hotline.
Yeah, I know. There's so many business ideas here. Well, I digress. My question for you both is, are you all going to put Remy in daycare? If so, when? If not, what are the reasons why you've decided against it? I have not put my son in daycare yet and not sure if I will anytime soon. Uh, gosh, the daycare is interesting, right? Because, that is the option for working parents. We're lucky that we have my mom who can spare a couple days a week and that we found someone wonderful. But there, Fran and I definitely have this conversation quite a bit about like what financially makes sense for us. Now I realize how super lucky I am that I am able to have him at home, because that's something I never really considered about parents and daycare is, yeah, they get sick all the time, then you get sick, and that's usually the conversation that people have. But then there's also you don't see them all day. And then you have to deal with that because you're working, and at least they're being taken care of. And there's so many great things about daycare, right? Like the social interaction. But like, yeah, like you don't get to just see them whenever you want, like if you were working from home. And that has to be really hard every day when you're dropping them off at daycare, like
Yeah.
hoping they're okay, wondering, if they're in a good spot. But Brian and I have decided we are definitely going to put Remy into something, probably like a Montessori program that's a half day in the fall when he's 18 months old, I think is when we've decided to put him in something.
Yeah.
Um, we still haven't really finalized that though. Everything we kind of thought we wanted to do, we're kind of like, I think he definitely needs,
Look, he's a social butterfly, so
yeah,
he loves
he's
to
like his
be around
daddy.
another kids, and he gets so excited every time that he sees other babies. It's crazy.
He does. And I think that's a real upside about daycare. I mean, I do think it's probably really difficult when the baby's really young and the parents are both like off of maternity, paternity leave and have to go back to work. But, you know, I think daycare is amazing or some form of it, right? Half day or school of some sort so they can learn the social ropes
Yeah.
and get tired.
Yeah. So he's not all wired at 8 p.m.
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. So no, there was no reason against it other than maybe we weren't ready or we had just come up with a different plan that seems to have worked. I think it's kind of like whatever works, right? Whatever works for the family, whatever you have to do. And but yeah, we're all for it. Just kind of dreading the sickness. And it's all I hear from everyone all the time is like they're sick and then one partner's sick and a lot of sacrifices you make, as parents,
Oh, we were
obviously.
very lucky that the first time that Remy got sick, he was already a year old almost.
Yeah. I had to take him to 2 doctor's appointments by myself this week, and, like, that was really hard going to especially now, I mean, how much this whole the parenting's just wild, right? Like, I've enjoyed it more as he's gotten older, but it's also harder, but in a different way. Like, when you have a newborn and you're a first-time parent, you're, like, so overwhelmed by the newness that I don't think you enjoy it as much or you definitely take moments for granted, but how can you not? And then you're like, oh, this is so hard. Like they're crying, they're cold, I'm changing their diaper, they're so delicate. Now I look back at that being like, oh my gosh, that was easier than now. Like he's an alligator. He's like an alligator on meth sometimes. He's like around the house, like kicking his legs up when I'm changing his diaper. I take him to the dermatologist because like his eczema had gotten so severe on his cheeks. Well, I really also think it's like a food allergy. I'm not quite sure yet. So we still got to go to the allergist, but we've finally gotten it like, you know, resolved, I think. But I took him to this derm and I didn't like the dermatologist office. Like the woman at the front desk wasn't nice to me. There was no one else in there. She was like, your appointment's not for 30 minutes. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought it was at 12. Okay, we'll have a seat. She also gave me like a dozen papers to fill out. So that's fine. I mean, so I like being early. Whatever. You think great they can see you early. But he was wild. Like wants to crawl around, wants out of his stroller. I'm trying to fill out paperwork thinking, wow, going to a new doctor alone is hard to fill out paperwork and keep him. So I'm like one book open reading Dr. Seuss, trying with my other hand to fill out paperwork. It was pretty crazy. But, by the time I got him back in the car, I'm like, I turn around, I get him buckled, I get in the front seat. I'm like, Remy, want to go to Chick-fil-A? He's like, sound asleep. Like the second because he's worn out and I'm worn out. No, it was so sweet. But no, he's so good. But yeah, he's all over the place. So now I take him to the doctor and I'm like, now what do you do for them? Like, I just give him my purse and let him go through my purse because there's like diapers and wipes. And now I realize now I need to start bringing more toys in my purse for him to play with because it's just not going to cut it just chilling in our arms anymore. Like he's on the move. He wants to get into stuff. So like I just gave him magazines.
And I
He's going
cannot
through.
even embracing myself when he starts walking.
We're getting real close, y'all. We're getting real close. But well, I'm really glad you're home. I really hope we can have a nice weekend. I see you're yawning and stretching and I'm glad you made it back.
Me too.
You should have rested a little more on your trip away. You should have gotten a little more rest. It was your opportunity to sleep. That's the one good thing about sleeping in a hotel room by yourself.
That's the thing. Like, I did sleep, but I keep waking up at the same time that he wakes up. And you're just like on so many things. Like, there's so many agendas. You have to prepare so many meetings. And it's just, that's not I was hoping for a morning to like be able to just go down the beach and have coffee and breakfast and dip my toes in the sand, and that was just a fallacy.
Well, hopefully we can have a little family beach vacay. The three of us, our first trip away together soon. But I know you're planning on surprising me, so we'll talk more about that next week. But thank you, and hope everyone has a great spring break. We'll see you next week.
Bye.